Good morning, good morning. It's a beautiful day here in Delaware, and spring has finally arrived. And that right there is the proof. So I got the latest email from the State of Delaware on their surplus vehicle auctions, and frankly, I don't need another car or another project. In fact, I just got my Camo Vic back from the wrapper, and I've got so much to share about that car. I've got the Super Hoopty, I've got the Greenbrier, I've got a Caprice, and I picked up a 70s Dodge hippie van recently that's out getting painted. So really, another car is not what I need, but I had to go down there, had to check it out, see what was going on. So come with me. I'm going to share with you the two Caprices they had at the auction. They had almost 2 dozen or so Vics or so. I'm going to show you the condition and what they sold for, and well, come on, let's go. So the way this auction works is that all the bidding is online. However, one day before the bidding ends, there is an inspection day. During the inspection day, all the cars are lined up with the keys in them. You can go through the cars, you can start them, check the windows, the locks, the air conditioning. You can put the cars in gear, you can check the brakes and how the transmission engages. You can hook up a code reader and really basically anything short of driving the cars. All right, so this white Caprice was in really nice condition, and it's a detective's model, a 9C3. It had the full wheel caps, the carpeting, and full center console. Typically, the Caprices that come through this auction, they have the mileage somewhere in the 80 and 90,000 range. So seeing this one with 51,000 on it is pretty unusual. The body was real clean. It only had some minor scuffs in the door. An accident report on the car shows that the car got disabled from a rear-end collision. But I looked real close at the body gaps, and I didn't see any evidence of an accident. I even pulled out the spare tire from the trunk well, and everything inside that well looked factory too, and no damage there. 3 of the tires on the car were nearly new, but the front passenger side was worn out. Though in the trunk there were 2 spares, and one looked brand new anyway. The interior was clean and tidy, no loose wires or holes anywhere. Considering the mileage on the car and the condition, I was figuring the car would sell somewhere in the 12,000 range, which was pretty close to the 11.4 that it sold for, but still it was just too much for me in trying to flip this car. The gold Caprice was interesting as it's a patrol car, so it's the 9C1 model. It has the small center hubcaps, the vinyl floor, and the center console meant for police equipment. It has less miles on her, but the body had much more damage to it. The front bumper was dented, the hood latch was broken, there were some small scrapes on the doors and on the rear bumper. But just like the white car, the rear quarter window molding was missing, which seems to be a common problem with these Caprices. Inside, the interior was clean, but the center console had some holes in it for the wiring. The battery was dead, so I couldn't start the car. I couldn't test the windows, the air conditioning. I couldn't check for fault codes. And it wouldn't jump start either with the booster box. The key was stuck in the ignition, and it wouldn't come out, which I don't know if that's because of the dead battery or if there was a lock cylinder problem. Because of the issues, I had priced estimate of around $7,000 for this car, so I was blown away when the bidding ended at $10,500. Over at the Crown Vic section of the auction, there were 4 Vics that I was interested in, which are the first 4 that I'm going to show you now. They're lot number 730, 729, 724, and 721. They all look nice in the auction photos, but once I was there, I started seeing the problems with the cars. On lot number 730, the mileage is what caught my eye originally, but the idle hours were higher than I liked, and the engine had a ticking noise that I think was coming from the alternator. The body was pretty clean and straight. The front bumper had some scuffing on it, and there were sticker shadows and scrapes on the right rear door. There was a body plug in the trunk, 5 on the roof. The interior was clean. It had a cloth back seat. I figured I could get the car for, say, $1,200 or so, and I could replace the alternator and get some paint work done and still be able to make a few bucks on the car. But really, in the end, it ended up selling for way more than I wanted to pay. Lot number 729 was real similar to the first Vic, with pretty nice mileage, but even lower idle hours. The front bumper was real clean, and the body had some small chips and scrapes in it. There were buffer swirl marks along the side of the car. There were 2 holes in the roof, but only one was covered. The engine sounded good. The odometer was wavering in and out, and the air conditioning compressor wouldn't kick on. The interior was clean with a cloth back seat, and it seemed like a real nice car. I was feeling really good about this car, and I was thinking I might bid up to the $1,800 range. But when I went to look underneath and I saw the right rear dogleg and the rust, no way. Afterwards, I figured if I could get the car for, say, maybe $1,200 or so, I'd be happy, and I could fix the rust and the alternator. But again, it went for way more than I wanted to spend. Number 724 was interesting. The car looked really nice. The body was straight. I didn't see any rust. There was one hole in the trunk lid that was plugged. I liked the color, and I'm not sure if it's a silver or maybe a sand color. Doing my walk around, I noticed that the rear bumper on the driver's side didn't quite fit the tail light very well. In fact, I could even put my finger in the gaps there. I did also notice that there's some paint overspray on the taillight housing too, so clearly a repair was made. Otherwise, it looked like a great car. The inside was pretty clean. The driver's seat was worn though, and the back seat was cloth. The odometer was dead, so there was no way of telling what the mileage was on the car. Ultimately though, I felt it was just too much risk of not knowing the mileage or the idle hours to bid much money on it. Without knowing much more, I bid up to $1,100 on the car, and I was shocked again when the bidding ended at $2,300, which makes me think maybe other folks knew something I didn't know about this car, whether they knew about the mileage or the history or what parts may have been replaced on the car. The last Vic I wanted to check out was lot 721. The mileage was at 145, which was just on the edge of being acceptable. The idle hours were higher than I wanted. The front bumper was scarred. The sides had sticker shadows and paint chips on the doors. The door molding was faded and mismatched, and the trunk lid had buffer burn marks from removing the old police decals. The rear bumper was scraped and had crazing in it from bumping something, and there were 2 holes in the roof. Inside it had adjustable pedals, a clean interior, and a cloth back seat. Overall, I thought the condition was something I could work with. And after paint work, I figured I could still make a few bucks if I could get the car in the $1,200 range. But just like the others, she sold for more than I wanted to pay. So have a look at some of the other Vics, their conditions, and what they sold for, and I'll put the footage in fast forward. So I went down to that auction hoping to buy some cars, not necessarily to add to my fleet, but I was hoping to do some flips. And the pricing on some of those cars wasn't bad. For instance, that white Caprice sold for $11,400, but because of the mileage and the condition of that car, I thought the price was pretty appropriate. I thought the price was pretty appropriate, but it was still way more than I wanted to spend. And the same thing with a lot of those Vics too. The price was fair as a buyer, but not as something I wanted to flip to try to make some money. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you got something out of this. If you liked it, be sure to give me a thumbs up. And as always, hey, thanks so much for watching.